Okay, checking my levels. Check. Everything looks good. I like doing these lives on Sunday. I like setting up the whole process. Yeah, I like doing video. I've started doing a whole bunch of different things now that lawn season's kind of getting over. And I just wanted to kind of briefly go over, before we get started, just a little bit about me. You know, I just wanted to have a great lawn. You know, my yard was looking a little shabby. I had pulled out this big, huge tree in my front yard, and I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. And I came up with the idea of trying to create a little golf course lawn, you know, putting green, some fairway grass, you know, that kind of stuff. And I had never really done that. I've always grown grass. I've always been, you know, pretty successful at growing, you know, nice green lawn and having a great grass, but I was never really into, you know, grass types, what type to use, you know, lawn mowers, low mowing. I had never looked into any of that. So when I came up with the idea it was actually 2022 when I came up with the idea, it was something that I just said, you know, I'm going to go ahead and research this. I'm going to look into, you know, watch some YouTube videos, see what people are doing, see if I can get some info on some lawn mowers, you know, grass types, all that kind of stuff. And what I found was, in the long run, I got really discouraged. I almost didn't do it because of the negativity and what the people were saying about, you know, creating a golf course lawn or having a putting green, low mowing and all the issues and all that sort of stuff. And I almost talked myself out of it. But I said, you know, this is just grass. If something happens, something goes wrong, it doesn't look good, I fail, I can just, you know, kill it, redo it, put a regular lawn in, and move on. So I went ahead with my project, and I started watching regularly, you know, certain lawn care channels. And what I realized about 3-4 months in, I was like, man, this is a lot of stuff. You know, I would stress out about not having a certain fertilizer, and I had to get it, and then, oh my God, Amazon can't deliver it for 4 days. I need it right now. I just got into that whole mode of I had to do this stuff. If I didn't do this stuff, my lawn was going to die or it was going to look terrible, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then I started realizing started doing some real research because I questioned all this. And I found out that the YouTube lawn care area is just full of a bunch of con men and people who are just out there trying to get views and likes and all that kind of stuff. I'm not out here trying to do that. I'm just doing this for fun. You know, I really could care less about a lot of stuff, you know, but I felt bad for all these people who are watching some of these channels feeling like this is what they have to do to have a great lawn. You know, I watched Yard Bra, like every episode. If one didn't come out, I was like, man, oh, come on, Yard Bra, put out a video. And then I started realizing that this guy's just a con man. You know, all this stuff that he's doing and he's talking about he's really not needed. Spending all this money on products I don't need. I started doing some research. I started finding some soil scientists, some guys with PhDs in soil. I was watching conferences. Yeah, I just was anything I could find on how to take care of your lawn, soil, you know, green grass, all that kind of stuff. I was watching that to try to find out what the real info is. I was tired of being conned and lied to, you know, and you know, a lot of these guys, they come out with their own fertilizer lines and they tell you you have to use this product to have this great lawn, and they show their lawn that's really, really green and nice. And you don't. Just because I have a great green lawn doesn't mean that what I necessarily do is what makes it green. You know, there's a lot of things that go into having a green lawn, but the ultimate thing is a little bit of nitrogen, water, light and temperature. You know, those are the key things. Fertilizer is one of the last things you really need to look at when your lawn starts looking bad. So I'm going to talk about a few things. I've got a bunch of things going on. I got some projects I've done. I've got some updates on my McLean reel mower. We'll just go ahead and get into some slides here and just, wherever it takes us, it takes us. I just remember, I'm just a regular guy. I'm actually a truck driver. I work for FedEx. I'm a truck driver. My name's Chris, and I'm just like everybody else. I just want to have a great looking lawn. That's all. I'm not out to prove any points. I'm not out to be the best lawn in the neighborhood. I'm not in for any of that stuff. I'm just out here doing my thing. So talking about my McLean and where my frustration lies. I did talk about this before, and I'm just going to point it out again here. When I got my tool that lets me know how high I'm cutting, I found out some really important things. This bed knife is not oriented like I thought it was, and like McLean told me it was. And the height I was measuring it to cut at wasn't the height I was doing it. And I was doing this all based on what McLean told me. Because when I got this mower, I had no clue how to use it, how to adjust it, how to do anything on it. And at the time I got it, I searched YouTube for videos. I couldn't find any videos. And that was kind of what made me start this channel, was just information on the McLean. So when I got this, I was like, what's going on here? This is something different. And look at the bed knife. It's cutting up here. This is dragging on my lawn. And this bed knife thickness is more than, it's probably 3 millimeters, but even still, if you have it set all the way to the ground to cut, it drags. And that's what's causing a lot of my problems in my putting green right now, because when I leveled it and all that kind of stuff, I wanted to cut it lower. So I started setting it lower, but I also got a new bed knife. And I started having this problem where it was scalping my lawn. And I was like, what's going on? I've never had this problem before. So I stopped mowing it lower and I put it back to where I normally mowed it and adjusted it to, which I found out was 5 millimeters. But that's a whole different story. And that's just based on what McLean told me when I was adjusting, how to adjust and how I determine the height. Anyways, even when I was mowing it at my normal height I was using before I got the new bed knife, I was having this problem and it was driving me nuts. Okay, so that was just the beginning to my video here. It's something I've talked about before, and I'm just really trying to add some information to this because I basically ground my bed knife. And the reason I ground my bed knife was because it was too thick, like I was showing in the video. And it was dragging, it was ruining my putting green. I was really frustrated with it. And this right here is the example I wanted to show. Look at how thick my new bed knife is right here. And then look at how thick my bed knife is that I ground. Here, I'll back this up a quick second. I'll pause this, because this is the main thing I really wanted to talk about here. So this is new from McLean, and it's just nice and thick. And like I was showing in the video, it cuts on the top. The reel and the bed knife meet right here on the top. So that means all this thickness right here below is basically dragging. If you're cutting at 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters, quarter of an inch, eighth of an inch, whatever it is. I personally try to cut at 2 millimeters. And I now have my blade height adjustment tool that lets me know exactly where my cutting height is, which I really like now. So I took my bed knife from that to this. So this right here is how I ground it. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about my McLean a little later on. I just wanted to show this part of the video here to show this is how I ground it down. And if you look at the difference between this and this, that's what's causing it to drag and not drag. Once I did this and I went out and I put my blade as low as I could get it. I could, with my new roller, I can cut to ground level. So I started cutting at 2 millimeters. I mean, actually 2 millimeters, exactly measured out with my gauge and everything. And all of a sudden I wasn't dragging. I wasn't ruining my putting green in certain areas. Now, I'll admit my putting green, probably not the most level. It's pretty level, but I'm sure there's a couple of spots that, due to settling and stuff like that, are a little bit higher than other areas. In fact, I just redid my putting green. I'm going to show that video here, and I'm sure I still have some areas that are a little high. I don't know. I'm not really good at leveling. I don't know why. I use all the processes. I do all the steps. I try as best I can to level things as good as possible, and it seems like I still have areas that I just can't get right. So whatever, I just deal with it as I go. So this is the thing I want to talk about. This bed knife, brand new, is $300. I have 3 of these. I have one that I bent. I have another one that I bought to replace the bent one. And then I got another one because I was like, I'm going to grind this thing down. And if this doesn't work and I ruin my bed knife, I better have another one, because I can't go 3 days in the summer without mowing. So I went through this whole process here, and I mean, here it is right here. I'm cutting at 2 millimeters right here, and it's rolling across the green. There's no drag. There's nothing going on. I'm not scalping because I was maintaining my putting green already at like 4 millimeters. So talking about my McLean, sorry, where my frustration just going to repeat here. I did talk about this before, and I'm just going to point it out again. So that was all I really want to talk about the bed knife, because I know some people have been talking about having problems with their bed knife dragging when they're cutting really low. The McLean Real Mower Greenskeeper is supposed to cut at 3 millimeters. I don't see that happening from the factory with the way it's designed. It's set up, the factory roller that's on the front, all that kind of stuff. I found out that just seems to be not really that achievable unless you start making some adjustments, some modifications. And I've made mods to my. So I'm going to go back and talk about this real quick. This is just going to be a real quick talk about composting, making your own compost and stuff like that. And I want to talk about this because I've been doing a lot more research about composting your yard and stuff like that. And I just want to make sure you understand all the information I put out is fact-based, based on scientific research. Reviewed, refereed, scientific papers done by guys with PhDs in soil science, just all that sort of stuff. Lots of conferences, lots of different interviews, and just things I've been watching. So I composted my lawn in June, and as you can see here, that was a lot of compost I put on it. This was 2 weeks later. And composting your yard is probably one of the best things you can do, especially to get away from all the fertilizers you're using. The fertilizers you put on your lawn, I mean, they're fine, they're great and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of people are over fertilizing and they don't realize it, and it just is non-useful. So when I made my shaker here, this is my new shaker. It's got 2 motors on it, and I basically connected them to the same plug. And this is the only point of this video right here, is not to show you my great shaker and what a great idea it was, is to talk about how I made it. Here I'm sifting compost. I have sand, compost, topsoil, I think steer manure, and chicken manure compost or whatever. I don't really know what they call that. Anyways, I mix it all together and I sift it, and look at all this large pieces I got out of it. When you're composting a yard you're real mowing at 1/4 of an inch or 2 millimeters, you can't have this. So I sift all this stuff out and I make this great dirt. Look at this great compost right here. It's like a 5-way blend of different types of compost and manure and things like that. And the white stuff is sand, of course. So I put all this stuff in there, and this is basically what I'm top coating my lawn with. I don't really do this to my putting green, but I do it to my lawn a lot, and the results are amazing. What composting does is it puts a lot of micronutrients, microbes. It helps your microbe community in your soil, and I know community microbe, I'm sorry. Anyways, so this is what I did to make this right here, and I'm gonna stop this. So it's basically just a frame. And I need to reinforce this because what I found out since I put on the second motor, and I do use this a lot, it's shaking and my corners are coming apart. It's just screwed together. And the shaking action is shaking it apart. So I'm going to reinforce it, but it's just a 2x6 frame. And I'm going to reinforce the corners with some 2x4s to kind of make them a little bit more secure. But with this mesh right here, this 1/4-inch mesh, I have it folded over. It's a 4-foot by 5-foot mesh. And when I built this, I actually didn't build it this size to fit on that cart. I bought this cart after I had made this. It was just by chance that it fit perfectly on top of the cart. But if you're going to make a shaker, you want to make sure you make it the size of something you're going to use to shake your material into, whether it's a wheelbarrow. This is a gorilla cart. It's 8 cubic feet. It holds a lot more than, or it holds more than the wheelbarrow. So that's why I use that. You know, I can put it in there and I can store it. I actually have a batch. Actually, I think it's this batch right here. I still have it sitting in my cart because I didn't use it. It was just leftover stuff I hadn't sifted from when I did use and put some compost down on my yard. So I just wanted to talk about this to say how I made this, how I put it together. With the screen here, I said I folded it over. And then if you look, I have up here, I have these strips of wood. They're on top and on the sides. There's a piece right here. And I put those, I use my pneumatic nail gun, and it's just staples. And I staple the screen into the 2x6 first, just to kind of get it secure. And I staple it all the way around, getting it as tight as possible. But I use these strips here to reinforce the screen on there so that it doesn't come off from all the weight and shaking and all that kind of stuff. So these are just strips of wood used to basically pin the screen in. And since I have it folded over, it's sifting at less than 1/4 of an inch because I have it so that it's folded over, offset from, you know, each layer. And I do have an 1/8-inch screen, which I'm going to try to incorporate somehow into this, or just make a separate sifter for using on my putting green. Because like I say, if you look at this bucket down here, look at how full it is of material. And this, I mean, this is 8 cubic feet that I have done here, but back here, let me see if I can show you the pile. So this is the pile right here. It was half bags of 4 different types of compost and manure. So it wasn't a lot to start with. It maybe was probably 6 cubic feet total. So that's why I'm using this. That's why I made it compost. What I found was through research is composting your yard is probably one of the best things you can do, especially to stay away from just having to fertilize all the time and doing these things that people tell you to do that you don't even need to really do anyways. I'll talk about that more later. But so I put these little legs on the sides here so that it will stay on my top of my cart. And I have a strap that I use that straps it in. So that's basically my shaker and how I put it together. It costs about $50. I think the most expensive things was $25 on this screen right here. You know, so you see here, I just have it so it fits on top. Here's my strap right here. Just strap it to the handle, and I have it wrapped around, and it's holding it down. Yeah, it's just amazing all the stuff you get out of this compost. So I've talked about basically redoing, reshaping my putting green. In some past videos, you know, I'd showed I had used tenacity to kill some bent grass on my putting green right here. And I picked a terrible, I think it was Sunday, but it was wet, rainy. The ground was really wet. This was a mess. But I just went to town. I got my Sunjo out, and I have the blade aeration insert on it. You know, everybody calls it a scarifier, all that kind of stuff. You know, whatever you want to call it. It's basically the blades, you know, the vertical cutting blades. I call it an aerification blade because that's basically what it does when you use it properly. As you see through the video here, it makes these lines in the grass. And if you're doing like an overseed, you're thinning your lawn, you've scalped your lawn, and you're using this blade here after you've dethatched, this just is going to loosen the soil on top, and it's going to make these grooves, and maybe you can see them better right here. Just making these, you know, cuts in the lawn into the soil, and it's loosening it all up, and it's, you know, giving you a great area to be able to drop seed in. And you can see on a lot of this here, well, now I'm shoveling. But there are areas that I use the Sunjo to kind of grind down, areas that I thought were high spots. Yeah, there was some right there. You know, I've got this going really quick because I wanted to show you kind of the whole process I went through. But see, if you see right here, you don't get dizzy. I ground that down because I felt like that was a high spot. And that's the thing about the Sunjo with these blades, is as you run it across, you're going to feel high and low spots, because, you know, the blade's going to cut, and then it's not going to be cutting, and you're going to notice there's some spots. Oh, that's a little low, or oh, that's a little high. So I kind of use that to level out, like as a pre-level to what I'm doing. I use my lawnmower, my Honda lawnmower, to just suck up all the material. You know, like I said, it was really wet this day, so this was a real mess. You know, it was really heavy. But I'm just basically trying to grind out the edges of this putting green, because what I'm doing is I'm actually adding Kentucky bluegrass along the edges and all around here, back here. Now this area right here, I was going to put bent grass back in, but I'm basically, you know, doing a leveling on my putting green, but I'm just making some changes to it to add some Kentucky bluegrass. So after I Sunjoed it, I got my lawn leveler. I think that's my lawn leveler. Yeah. And I'm just working on, you know, getting the area as level as possible. You know, I do multiple steps here in trying to work on these areas to get them level. I'm just trying to get it all to work out. I didn't use the dethatcher blade at all on this when I was doing this process. I just used the blades on it, and I'll just call them blades because you can call them whatever you want. So there was a couple of different rakings of getting material out. Like I said, this was all bent grass, and I put tenacity on it to kill it. So I'm really just trying to get this back area to Kentucky bluegrass, because the problem with having it as bent grass was I didn't really have a good turnaround spot with my mower. And when I would turn around on the bent grass, it basically would just tear the bent grass up because I have this flower bed back here, and I'd have to step down in it and, you know, turn the mower around, and, you know, I'd be lower than the mower, and it was just a problem. The blade would drag. It was just all kinds of things. So as you can see here, and a lot of this video I'm trying to show you here is I'm trying to show you what I did, because a lot of people get stressed out about tearing their lawn up like this or their grass up like this. You know, this is a bent grass putting green, and if you look here, I've ground it down to almost nothing. And here again, I'm just really trying to work on this area right here in trying to get it level and trying to get all that bent grass out of it. So this is my compost mix right here, and I'm just using my compost spreader to spread it out evenly. I really like the compost spreader for spreading dirt, compost, and all that kind of stuff. It's just an extra sift in that. I mean, this material is so screened already that there's no real material that's being held back in that. But it's a great way to spread compost, even if you're not going to sift it. You know, if your lawn is thicker, you don't need to sift it so much like what I have to do because of how short I mow my lawn. But so my drag, very important tool. I just use it to basically eye how level I am. If I have some low spots, because it covers a wide area. It's an 8-foot, you know, 4x4s, two of them together, and it's heavy, so it's going to drag and pull dirt around as I'm doing it. So now I'm just kind of rolling this all in to try to just make a really nice, good, compact bed, and still trying to get it as level as possible. And you see, I really am concentrating on trying to get this ground as solid as possible. I mean, it's not going to be, you know, compacted so much because, you know, the roller only weighs 225 pounds, and I'm just trying to get it so it's level and it's hopefully not going to settle too much. And my biggest thing here is I'm just trying to get it level. So after I did my last leveling with my level rake, well, I guess maybe this is my last one right here. I'm basically just gonna rake it after this, loosen the soil back up, give the seed some area to make some contact with the ground, and I'm gonna spread my seed. And I use a drop spreader all the time. It's a Scott's drop spreader, and I've talked about it. I don't like it. It's a terrible product, but it's what I have. I've had it for I don't know how many years. Then I sanded my putting green before I put some seed on it, and I just am trying to level it here. I had kind of made a little bit of a mistake. I put compost down here. I didn't mean to. I didn't actually mean to tear up this area down here because I wasn't replacing this with Kentucky bluegrass. This is still bent grass. But, you know, whatever. It's what I ended up doing. So I put my bent grass seed down, and then now that I'm going to roll it, I need to make sure I don't cross-contaminate my soils with seed. So I try to be as careful as possible not to drag this roller, but you see here, I'm cleaning it off here before I roll it across my Kentucky bluegrass, trying not to get bent grass into that. Now, of course, it's going to happen. Now for the time lapse. I'll just go ahead and get out of the way here. This time lapse basically is about a 3-week period. This lower area, you know, I kind of had a problem getting it to grow. I don't really know what the issue was with it. I mean, I had tore that area up and like I was putting Kentucky bluegrass there, but I didn't. You know, so here I had my first mow done, and then now this is my second mow. So this is about 4 weeks. As you can see, this is the 4th. I believe the date I did this was the 14th of October, 15th of October, or of September. And then here's a mow I'm doing on it. And I'm just now trying to work on and getting it back to its normal level. I'm mowing it at like 4 millimeters right here. And it's cutting really good. So I'm liking the way it's cutting. And it seemed pretty level. And I just used my Honda lawnmower to suck up all the excess grass and stuff. You know, I don't use a grass catcher on any of my lawns. And then here I'm just mowing the Kentucky bluegrass now, and I've raised the cutting height on my Kentucky bluegrass to about 9 millimeters. I'm only able to mow once a week now because of the temperatures, the sun hours, and all that kind of stuff. It really kind of kills me. So I mean, that was my putting green. I'll show you some more updates on it later. Okay, so this is my next door neighbor Doug's yard. And I talked to him in the spring about maybe redoing a reno on it, but he was, you know, pretty happy with his lawn. He didn't really want to, you know, I don't think he wanted to trouble me with it, but I told him I would do it. And we didn't do it in the spring because I had him put down some pre-emergent on his lawn to, you know, help out with the weeds and some crabgrass and stuff like that. So we weren't able to do it in the spring. So September, I told him in August we would start prepping it for it. You know, his lawn was a mixed bag of just every kind of grass seed you could probably think of. You know, he had, you know, patched up some spots, and, you know, every time you patch something, you always end up not getting the same grass seed. I mean, I know I do. When I was, you know, doing that, I would end up with different grass, and it would grow differently. It would look different. He had some crabgrass and some things in there. It was a really thick lawn. So I used the dethatcher the first weekend, and I did this over a 3-week period. I used glyphosate to kill, and it only took one application. I was actually surprised that the one application wiped out his whole lawn as good as it did, but I made it really strong. I used my Honda lawnmower here as a vacuum to, you know, suck up all the material I dug out of it, and it does a great job. So Doug ordered 7 yards of dirt here, had it dumped on his lawn, and this was August 30th. We're doing this, and we just kind of do one final rake to get, you know, as much of that dead material out of there as possible, and then we're gonna use this 3-way topsoil, and I have my friend Jason come over, and we're just gonna throw the dirt. Not much magic in throwing dirt. So here, break out my Sunjo. I got the aerification blades on it, the blade tool, to kind of just run over this, and, you know, it's just turning up the ground, it's loosening it up, and it's kind of leveling things out. I don't know if you've ever used one of these things, but when you're pushing it, you kind of feel low and high spots in your lawn or in the dirt, and, you know, you kind of know what's going on, or you can kind of feel it. Then I break my drag out, and this really is a tool that I use for leveling, but it also helps me with low spots and high spots. And I'm able to, you know, tell, you know, these guys can see, you know, as I'm dragging this, you know, where's high, where's low. And they're just gonna start backfilling in some of these areas. I break out my level, and we wanted to slope the yard towards the back because he was having a problem right in this area right here. He would get a lot of pooling from watering, and it was just kind of a low spot, and everything would run this way. So we're trying to make it so everything will run towards the back and downhill. And that's why I'm using my level, but I also use my level just to kind of get an idea of, you know, what is the level on the yard? Which direction is it? leaning towards. If you have spots in your lawn that you want to raise, or you want to kind of fix the way it's draining like we are here, this is a great way to do it. And my dad taught me how to do this when I was like 10 years old. We had bought our first brand new house, or they had bought their first brand new house, and we had no lawn, and we put this great lawn in, and that was when I really started getting into growing grass, taking care of it. I mean, I used to get excited to come home from school to be able to mow the lawn, and stupid stuff like that. So just using the level rake here, just to kind of fine tune the level on it. We still got a little mound of dirt left right back here. And I told Doug, whatever dirt he didn't use, we can throw it in my side yard there, and I'll find a place for it. I haven't used it yet, but I have some places I need to use it to fill and re-level some areas. So this process here of just leveling and doing all this, it really only took us about an hour and a half to spread all this dirt and get it going. So just kind of fine tuning it right here. So I spent a lot of time working on this side right here because I really wanted to, help Doug and get this to drain well. Doug's a lot older than I thought he was. He's been retired for quite a few years, but I didn't realize how old he was. And when he told me how old he was, I was like shocked, because I didn't think that he was in his 80s. I thought he was like maybe 75 or something. This guy's in his 80s. He's out here throwing dirt like a champ. He's not afraid of work. He's a really nice guy. So now I'm using my Sun Joe, and I'm just trying to work that pile down just to kind of get the rest of the yard level where that pile was, because that's probably the worst thing about dumping a pile of dirt on your yard, is getting that area back to level. So now that we've got everything leveled and dragged and rolled and everything, we're just raking to loosen the soil back up to get some good seed to soil contact, and I'm going to throw some seed down. I was going to use my drop spreader, spray and tenacity right there. I do tenacity on all my seed projects. I just feel like it's a great start to a project to keep weeds from growing. So I hand threw all the seed, and then we raked it in, and then I rolled it. I like using the drop spreader because it gives you a lot of control, especially on the edges. I don't use one of those throw type spreaders on any seeding project because I feel like it's just going to get seeds in areas where I don't want it to go. One of these days I'll invest in a really good drop spreader that's not a Scott's. But yeah, this Scott's wasn't dropping very well when I was trying to do this day, so I just ended up throwing the seed. So as you can see, I did a great job. I rolled it out. One little issue I had was my roller was not filled all the way with water when we did this, so it was not as heavy as I wanted it to be. So we had some soft spots. They seem to have worked themselves out. But here we're just going to drop some compost down. And this is a difference between good peat moss and crappy peat moss. The really dark stuff here, we got at a different supplier. The other one, he got it at Lowe's, and it's just that regular peat moss that you get at Lowe's, and it's really terrible, very inconsistent. Got his sprinklers going, and I got them on a watering schedule. I don't really care for these sprinklers. We're going to kind of show you why here. I mean, they work great, and they're great for when your grass is growing, but I don't think there's any sprinkler that's great for when you're seeding. They all tend to create washouts and that sort of stuff. I've watched a lot of these lawn care guys, and I see them have the same problems, and they are using these big, expensive professional sprinklers, and they still have the same problems. Just a time lapse from a different point of view, a lot more quicker. Tenacity, grass seed, compost, or I'm sorry, rolled it, composted it, boom, done. So this is a time lapse. It's got the dates down here on the bottom. So I had cut out the first couple of days. So this is the 8th of September. So this is like a little over a week later. And we've got some good germination. Now this is Kentucky bluegrass, and this is low-mow Kentucky bluegrass. This is actually the same type of Kentucky bluegrass I'm growing. And I know it's really slow to start. It actually germinated pretty well, but once it germinates and it starts growing, it just stops. And then it seems like instead of growing up, it's growing down. It's like building up its roots. So I had Doug start mowing, and then this is a little washout area that he had right here. So this area, because of the sprinklers, just created some washout on a seed, so it didn't really grow as quick and good as I wanted it to. But the sprinklers really kind of saturate that area pretty well. So here we are. This is a month later, 4 weeks. He's mowing. It's looking great. Here's a drone shot about a week ago. So, it's about 5 weeks in. It's filling in really nice. It has, slowed down a little bit. I'm going to have him throw some nitrogen on it, probably some urea, to kind of get that thing growing. But man, the temperatures really changed here quickly. And it went from really great grass growing period to not so great. Okay, this is going to be really quick. I've showed this 100 times probably, but this is my Bermuda project. This is November of last year. I put these Bermuda plugs in. This is Tahoma 31 Bermuda grass. And I killed it with glyphosate. I sprayed some to kill some weeds, and I killed some of my plugs. So that was probably the biggest mistake I made in getting this thing to really take off this season. So I did get some more plugs, and I filled in these areas, and I just, was trying to get it done. But these plugs, man, they were terrible when they came in. So it didn't quite go as quickly as I wanted to. I composted. I leveled it twice because it really wasn't that level. It had a lot of rocks in it, but I was trying to get a good base over the top of the rocks so I could low mow it. I'm mowing this at like 1/4 of an inch. I want to get it down shorter, but it didn't fill in as much as I wanted it to this season. And a lot of it had to do with being stupid and spraying glyphosate to kill some weeds. It was just a big mistake. Anyways, this is July through October. Basically the hottest 4 months of our growing season. And you can see as the shadow gets deeper and deeper in the back here, the Bermuda is going to start fading on me. And this scalping down here is because I mowed it side to side. I usually mow it up and down. And when I mow side to side, it seems to scalp a little bit more. So I need to work on that. Maybe do some more leveling next year. But I mean, look, I think it really filled in great. Growing Bermuda grass in Western Washington, I feel like that project was a success. I'm going to give it one more season before I decide, whether I'm going to keep it or not. It was just something I wanted to do. It was an area of my yard that used to be my garden, and I just tore the garden out. My whole yards have just become grass, just projects and stuff like that. And I don't stress out over grass. I don't get worried about it. If I have a spot that goes bad, my son's dog was here for a week. They were out of town, and I have a bunch of dog pee spots in my backyard. I just can't keep up. I'm not here all the time when she goes out, so I can't put water over, her pee spots to prevent it from, burning my lawn. And one quick note, pee spots from your dog are not created by, I even forget now what most people say, like there's excess nitrogen or something like that in their pee or whatever it is. It's not. It's actually lactic acid in a dog's pee that is creating the burn. There's been a few research papers done on this. I've read them. I've heard some talks about it from different soil science PhD scientists talking about it. The best thing you can do for dog pee spots is just flush it out with water after they do their business. If you can't follow them around with a little watering can every time they go to the bathroom in your backyard, then you're probably going to get a burn spot. I have like 5 of them, and not really happy about it, but it is what it is. Dog was here for a week. So anyways, Bermuda, it's really nice grass. I really like it. I hope next year that it fills in a lot more. So I'm going to talk about a few things. I got a good mow going on here, and I just kind of showing you how my Kentucky bluegrass is looking. I chose Kentucky bluegrass, this grass specifically, because of its appearance. I decided I wanted Kentucky bluegrass. At first, I thought I wanted tall fescue lawn. And then as I was doing research, I realized that Kentucky bluegrass is what I wanted. It's a little more on the temperamental side, a little more, people say it's a little more difficult to grow. I don't know. I think it looks great. I've had my issues with it. I'm just a regular guy like you guys, and I do stuff, and I have these spots down here, you see? Yeah, when I was taking care of Doug's lawn, and I'd sprayed all that glyphosate down, it rained that, I don't even think it was that night. I think it was a couple days later. What I did was I put the wrong shoes on when I went out walking in my lawn looking for like POA and just weeds and things like that. And I had my glyphosate shoes on, and I walked through my lawn. It was wet. It was like sopping wet because it had rained. And all this glyphosate, came off my shoes, and you could literally see footsteps in my lawn all the way to the point where I walked out to and walked back, and it just killed it. And now I'm trying to get it to grow back. So I started cutting at the, 9 millimeters? Because like I said, I'm only able to mow once a week. And actually I mow on Saturday and Sunday. Just because I just like mowing. I don't think I was able to mow today, though. It's supposed to rain. I think it's raining right now. So my purpose of the mow video here is I want you to see how green my grass is. And I'm not bragging about how green it is or anything like that. I actually don't even like how green it is. To me, that dark green grass, like all these, lawn care YouTube guys talk about, personally, I don't care for it. I like the look of my putting green. I like the look of my Kentucky bluegrass when it's, fertilized normally. This is where I realized that this whole lawn care group of people on YouTube, there's a bunch of them. Some are really good, some are really bad. But for the most part, what I found out is lot of them are just conmen. Yardbra, Lawn Care Nut, Ron Henry, you know, they're trying to sell you stuff. They need support. You know, I don't know why, but you know, a lot of their products they tell you to use, you don't even need to really use. I mean, I can't believe Yardbra just came out with his own fertilizer line, and it's probably the biggest waste of money you could ever use. And he talks about it like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And the reality is the way he tells you to use it and all that kind of stuff. Lawn Care Nut, same thing. He has some products that he tries to sell you that, you know, are very expensive, and using a granular iron on your lawn is worthless. And he's got this, I don't know what it's called. It's like triple dark or dark green extreme. I don't know. It's something. It's like $70 a bag, and it's all granular, and it's just nitrogen, sulfur, and iron. But the iron in it is worthless. You know, if you're not using an iron that's chelated with EDDHA, I believe it is, that's probably the only way iron can be chelated to where it actually will do something to your lawn. Any other chelated iron product that's granular, not doing a thing. Iron oxidizes out of your yard within an hour of you putting it down. It's just the facts. I mean, you can research it, you can look it up yourself. Now, if you're spraying liquids on, best thing you could do to your lawn, because when you spray a liquid on your lawn, instantly turns green. I don't care what product of iron you're using that's a liquid, it's going to green your lawn. Okay, I don't care if it's Neighbor's Envy, I don't care if it's Yardbra's, whatever it is that he came up with. Anything with liquid iron, it's going to work right now. I've put videos out on it showing me spraying, and as I'm spraying, the grass is changing colors and getting darker green. And a lot of that has to do with staining. And don't believe any of this stuff. It has to do with the iron or the product or the nitrogen or anything else. Your grass, turf grass, is not able to process any kind of fertilization instantly. It's not able to absorb it, turn it around into chlorophyll and all these sorts of things that make your grass green within an hour or 2 hours. It takes minimum 24 hours for your grass to be able to start showing a noticeable sign of any fertilization. Okay, so anybody trying to tell you that their product, because it turns your grass green instantly, it is the best, it's just a lie. You're being conned. They're taking your money. Okay, I use a powdered iron sulfate heptahydrate. I mix it in water. It's a very fine powder. It's very water soluble. I spray it on my yard. It cost me $35 for a 50-pound bag. It lasts me 2 years. Okay. Urea nitrogen, it's the only other thing I use. I do the same thing. I melt it down in with my iron. I put on about a quarter to a half a pound once a month. And that's all I do. Right here in this mow is actually my putting green after I had sanded it and leveled it. But the reason why I only use nitrogen and iron is iron's going to green my lawn, of course, but nitrogen is the baseline nutrient that your lawn needs to grow. It drives everything. Phosphorus and potassium, pretty much always available in your soil. If it's not, your soil is going to show signs of being deficient. You're going to probably need to do a soil test and find out if that's the problem. I don't recommend doing a soil test just willy-nilly. If your grass is growing great and looking good and you're not having any problems, there's no reason to add any kind of phosphorus or potassium or any micronutrients. That's all just a myth that you need to add those things. Using any kind of strong phosphorus fertilizer, it's not making your grass or your roots grow any better because you're adding more phosphorus. If you're adding phosphorus or potassium to your lawn, you're just probably overdoing it, and your lawn is so rich in those nutrients that your grass can't take it, uptake it. Nitrogen is the driver of all nutrient uptake. In a ratio of 4 nitrogen, 2 phosphorus, 1 phosphorus, 2 potassium, 4, 1, 2. That is the only way your grass uptakes nutrients. Okay, it will never take up more phosphorus than it does nitrogen. Your nitrogen drives how much phosphorus and how much potassium it's going to uptake from soil, okay, from the available nutrients that's in the soil. And phosphorus is a naturally occurring type of nutrient, potassium as well. I have lots of it, and I don't do anything to add phosphorus except for composting. Composting is a great way to add phosphorus into your lawn and have it available. I have soil tests that will show you my lawn is rich in phosphorus, and I don't add any phosphorus. In fact, my backyard, I don't even really compost it, and it's got so much phosphorus in it, my yard's not going to know what to do with it for 20 years. But I'm not saying you don't need to add phosphorus. If you're deficient in the phosphorus, of course you need to add it. Potassium, of course you need to add it. Any micronutrients, if you're deficient in it and your grass is showing signs of being deficient, you've done a soil test and it says this is what you're doing wrong or this is what you're missing, go ahead and add it. But do not use a My Soil test. My Soil test is the most worthless test you could ever use. It's just documented. I have two soil tests right here that I can show you. And a Malic 3 test is probably the best test to get for a homeowner. I get mine through soilkit.com. You can get them at Site One, Wilco. I think Lowe's in some areas of the country have them. There's a few places that will have them, but you don't need to do a soil test unless you've eliminated everything previous to that or determining that. You don't even need to do a soil test. If you're not watering enough or you have a watering issue, maybe your sprinkler's broken, light issue, maybe you're in a shaded area, you have a tree that's overgrown, bushes, whatever, pest damage, temperature. There's just all these things that you need to look at before you go to fertilizers, because chances are your lawn is probably not deficient. And using all these different fertilizers and micronutrients is really a waste of money. They're not providing anything extra that you really need. I mean, the benefits you're seeing from them, if you're seeing any, are probably minimal and probably very unlikely to happen. Most of the signs you're going to see of a healthy lawn is just from a good soil base and nitrogen. And like I said, nitrogen is going to drive how all the nutrients are taken up in the soil. So anyways, this is my grass. That's why it's green. I started doing a 2-week, they call it a fall nitrogen blitz, but that's a bunch of garbage anyways. I just watched a YouTube channel talking about doing a fall nitrogen blitz, and they totally described it wrong. Adding nitrogen to your lawn, if you could fertilize twice a year, once a month, whatever it is. For Kentucky bluegrass, it requires like 2.5 pounds of nitrogen a year. And you can break that 2.5 pounds however you want. If you want to do it monthly, do a 1/4 pound a month, or whatever it is, 1/3 of a pound a month, 1/2 pound a month during the grow season. You could do that. Add a little iron in with your application. I do everything liquid. I only apply iron as a liquid. And right now I'm applying like a 1/4 of a pound every 2 weeks, which is basically what they call a nitrogen blitz. But realistically, if you do everything right, you can add nitrogen weekly if you want. You just need to give it little small microdoses. That's why they call it spoon feeding. What is a 1/4 of a pound? 1/8 of a pound, 0.125 of a pound a week. Not going to hurt your lawn. It's going to keep it green, keep it growing. The only thing you need to make sure you have is sulfur available. Sulfur is what helps nitrogen be absorbed into your grass. That's why you're going to see a lot of nitrogen products have some sort of sulfur in it. And that's what I use. So like I said, I don't really like my grass this green. It's too green, but I'm also trying to get it to grow and thicken up and get ready for the winter. Nitrogen blitz, your grass doesn't store nitrogen. It either uses it or it doesn't use it, okay? If it's available, it will take it up. It's not gonna store it over the winter, and it's not gonna become available in the spring any more than if it's just sitting there. You know, a lot of it is, you know, this one channel was talking about doing a nitrogen blitz, and they were just saying how, oh, you know, when you put all this nitrogen in, your plant absorbs it up and it stores it over the winter and it holds it. And then when the spring comes, you know, your grass grows like crazy and turns really green and thickens up. It's such a lie that it's not even how nitrogen works. And this is why I come back to, I feel bad for people that don't understand grass or know much about grass. I just did the research to find out because I was tired of listening to these guys. And now I see what the golf course superintendent guy that's got his channel, he's doing all his stuff. A lot of his stuff is okay, but he talked about iron totally wrong. And, you know, it is what it is. You know, you guys can do what you guys want with, you know, products and how you fertilize and do all these things. A lot of it's not going to hurt, but the reality is I spend $80 about every 2 years. Maybe 100 every 2 years, because I give my nitrogen to my urea to my neighbors. I fertilize my neighbors' yards with the urea and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, I'll get off that kick. I just get really frustrated with that because I'm just tired of hearing all this garbage about nutrients and people making their own products that you don't need to buy. So this is just a quick update of my neighbor Wilson's yard. He had a bad grub problem and moss in this area of his yard. And his yard looked really, really great. And then the grubs got it, and then some moss, because this kind of area, he's got big trees back up over here. So I redid his yard for him. I just told him I would. I spent, you know, some time, a day on my vacation in spring to do this for him. I had to use the 24-hour grub killer to kill the grubs. I used moss out, killed all the moss. I dethatched it, I blade aerated, I took it down, I put some topsoil in there. And we used Mystique ryegrass from the Seed Boss. I like the Seed Boss, I like his products for ryegrass. I'm not really a ryegrass fan, but you know, ryegrass is a great grass to grow. It's got a dull side and a shiny side to the blade. It stripes really, really well. It grows really thick. Works pretty good in shaded areas. So this was a couple weekends ago. I told Wilson I'd mow his lawn. Well, I actually didn't even tell him. I just went over there and did it. You know, Wilson is a really busy guy. He's young. He's got a family. He's got, you know, a baby, and he's got a young son. And this guy doesn't even get home from work sometimes till 8 o'clock at night. I mean, actually a lot. So I try to help him out. I put some fertilizer on it. He hadn't really put any nitrogen or anything down on it all season. And he had some watering problems where somebody had turned the water off on his sprinkler and it wasn't watering at the hottest time of the summer. And it started, you know, fading pretty quickly, but you know, he turned it around, he got the water back on. So I put some nitrogen and some iron on it just to kind of get it back into shape. And it's gonna look great this winter. And this is just kind of the mow I did on it. It's striping really, really well. It's really, really green. He really likes it. I mean, I talk to him all the time and he just boasts about how happy he is with this grass, and I'm trying to talk him into doing his front yard next season in the spring. His front yard is looking pretty good. I don't have any video of it, but I've been starting to take care of it with some nitrogen and some iron because it was looking kind of shabby. He waters it, but it's just been, kind of brown. It just needed nutrients, and it looks really good now. It actually looks really good. It's not as green as this right here, but it's getting there. And I did 2 fertilizer doses on it, and it came back really well. So I do have a striper on my Honda here. I have a striping kit. It's great, but I mean, I really feel like his yard turned out really great. He does have some water issues where it doesn't cover all the way down to the sidewalk here. That's why he's got some spots that aren't looking as great. So we're going to work on that and try to fix that next year. But that's my neighbor Wilson's yard using mesquite ryegrass. I really feel like it turned out really, really good. Let's see if this is going to cooperate. So I wanted to just talk about the McLean again real quick. So here's the 2 bed knives. So this is a brand new one. You can see kind of how thick it is right here. It's not ground down at all. And then I have this one here. This one I gave to a friend at work. And they actually put this on a CNC machine. And they ground this down for me on a CNC machine. It actually turned out really well. He actually told me if I got a nice chunk of metal, they could actually cut me a whole blade, one single piece for me and make it thin enough. And look at that. So I haven't put this on yet just because I just been really busy. If you look at that compared to this brand new one. See, I don't know if I can get both these up at the same time here. Sorry. So that's the bed knife, and that's really how you need to fix it so it won't drag if you're cutting at 1/4 of an inch or lower with the McLean. This is a Greenskeeper custom roller here. I have 2 of them. This one's a 3-inch roller. It makes it so I can cut higher, and this is a 2.5-inch roller, and it makes it so I can cut lower. I can actually cut at 2 millimeters. I don't have the stock roller out, but it's 2 7/8, so it's almost as big as this 3-inch. And the reason why you can't go any lower with the stock blade is because, I don't know if you can get down in here. The lower you go, the closer the reel gets to the roller. And that's what causes or makes it so you can't go any lower. I don't think you can get to 3 millimeters, but I don't know. I don't even try anymore. I used to. So with this 2.5, I can literally put this bed knife all the way down to ground level and cut my yard. These are the adjusting knobs right here. It's got a little stop nut on this that kind of holds it in place. This bar that goes across right here, you loosen it up down here, and then there's 2 bolts on the side right here. You loosen those 2 up, and it will slide up and down the roller, basically the roller height. So you can go up or down to get it, cut higher or cut lower. And then I've showed on the previous video how I measure. I have a digital measuring gauge that I use to adjust the cut height now. I used to do it differently, kind of the way McLean told me, and then I found out that was just totally wrong. One of the things I wanted to point out, so if you see this right here, let's see if I can lose. Okay, this is broke. I probably could take the cotter pin out and show you a little bit better, but so this is supposed to be a solid piece right here. And if you look, you see how sloppy my handle is. So I'm going to have to get a new handle. My only assumption is this is basically from just up and down with this all the time. You know, I mow 3 times a week sometimes in the summer. And so what I found out also is this also creates an effect on the drive tire down here to where it doesn't come up high enough. Because if this gets out of position a little bit when you have it up like this and the drive tire is up, the drive tire is actually closer to the ground. So then when you're turning it, it ends up dragging on the ground. You know, I mean, I cut my lawn so short that this tire in some of the hill areas of my backyard or the uneven areas of my backyard, the tire drags and it just tears up my yard, my grass. So that's another issue I have. I didn't realize that was happening until it got to this position right here, and I was having a hard time getting it back and forth. And you can probably see right here, it's scraping. So anyways, I just noticed that a couple of weeks ago. My other issue here, this right here, this nut comes loose a lot. It needs like a bolt with a cotter pin or something on there to hold it, because what happens is this comes loose, and then when this comes loose, this becomes sloppy. And again, you have the same problem with the drive tire. The drive tire ends up dragging on the ground. And even if you're on level ground and you're turning around, the drive tire drags. So, I mean, overall, since I fixed the issue with my blade dragging, I'm just kind of dealing with all these issues that I have with the McLean. It's a very economical, you know, it's kind of gets to that point, you know, you get what you pay for with a lawnmower. It's one of the most economical greenskeepers you can get to be able to cut as low as you want. By adding the custom roller, I made it so I can cut shorter. And by grinding the bed knife, I've made it so I don't have a dragging issue anymore. And then now there's just, I mean, parts wear out. I mean, it is what it is. I feel like this design could have been a little stronger. You know, it's a little weak. And then this thing right here loosening up. Yep. I mean, maybe if I put 2 nuts on it, it would help stop it from getting sloppy. But I mean, you can see it's just really sloppy. Some of the other issues I've had is the belt. I use a larger belt. I mean, I'm back using the stock belt right now. I kind of just did a whole weekend, I mean, not a whole day, but just messing with this adjusting coupler right here to make it so I can get that belt to work. You know, I used to have it to where it just seemed like it dragged all the time. The belt was burning. And I finally got it to the point to where this is being adjusted properly. I actually ended up cutting some of this rod off because I felt like I wasn't able to get it tight enough at the position I need it to be in to make this belt work. I've also gotten it down to where I can replace the belt by just taking off the belt guard and disconnecting the rod here and pulling it forward and just using this rod here to make it so you can pull this belt through. It's loose enough, or got enough play in it to where you can just roll it right off of the roller over there. So those are some things with the McLean. I mean, overall, I'm happy I've been able to fix it so I can get a good mow on my putting green. Right now my putting green is under repair anyways, so I'm not really worried about it. It's going to be next season until I get that thing back into shape. So I'm just going to mow it. Going to keep mowing it as low as possible, try to get it to grow in. You know, just mess with it. I don't really concern myself with grass so much. So let me turn this off here. I was going to talk about my soil tests. I still haven't gone over this. You know, I've been meaning to. My basic thing here is I was just comparing the difference between a Malik 3 test, which is this right here from soilkit.com, and the My Soil test over here. The My Soil test is so inaccurate, it's not even funny. The one good thing that I will say about the soilkit.com, the Malik 3 test, is this number right here, CEC. I believe that's what cash and exchange capacity. It's a good number to know, probably more important than any of the rest of these numbers. My number is an okay number, and basically that's talking about the fertility of your soil and its ability to hold fertilization, nutrients, and those sorts of things. You know, the lower the number, probably the more clay you have in it, and the less ability your soil is going to have to absorb or hold nutrients. The higher the number, probably the more sandy your soil is, and the more, I don't know that, now I'm forgetting because I learned so much different stuff about it. I don't remember it. I just remember the basic information. This is an important number. If you have a high clay or you have a low number, it's a good number to know, and it's probably going to be a reason why you're constantly having to add nutrients. And this is a reason why you would want to use soil testing if you're having a problem in your yard to know what nutrients you're deficient on. Because if this is a low number, your soil isn't going to maintain or retain nutrients as well. And you're probably going to have to add maybe some potassium or phosphorus or something like that, something that your soil just doesn't have the ability to generate, you know, because those nutrients are just available in soil through natural causes, natural occurrences within the soil, the microbes in your soil, the rain, just the different things, the environment that your soil is exposed to. So mine here, I believe it was actually phosphorus. Let me see if I can bring this down real quick. Now I know these are totally different testing processes and the way they're measured and all those sorts of things. So it's not so much that I'm comparing numbers, apples to apples. I'm comparing the numbers and the basis. So if you look at the phosphorus right here, it says 157.5. And it says I'm plus 100. I'm very high in phosphorus here. This is my backyard. And then if you look over here at the soil kit, My Soil, look at the phosphorus. Okay, it says it's high to 27, and the high is supposed to be 11. And I don't know what the differences in the ranges that these two companies use. I just know that this is like twice whatever. This is like 4 times higher than the number it's supposed to be. And that's what I'm saying here. The consistency between the two is just not good. I think it was potassium. So it says my potassium is optimal. And right here, this is the Malik 3 test. It says my potassium is way high, way high. And here on the soil kit, it says my potassium is optimal. I mean, it's almost on the high side, but it's within the range that they have listed. Who do you believe? I mean, I don't know. I've been told Malik 3 is one of the best testing processes that they use. The one thing you'll also notice on the Malik 3 test, there is no nitrogen reading, and there's a reason for that. There's actually no verified way of being able to measure nitrogen in your soil. Soilkit.com, they give you a nitrogen number. Where they get this number from, how they get it, is probably a method that's not accurate. It probably doesn't even give you the real story. Let's see, with mine, it says mine's 10.75 optimal. I don't know. I put so much nitrogen in my yard. To me, I feel like it should be high, but whatever. You know, I don't know. I don't even really care because nitrogen is going to get used. Anyways, that's just kind of some of the info on soil testing. You can see down here at the bottom, look at my iron. My iron is really high. See, and that's how I feel my nitrogen should be on this test here, is it should be really high because that's all I use is nitrogen and iron. And like I said, this is my backyard. And I spent a lot of time this year pumping nitrogen and iron in it to get it into shape, green it up a little bit because it was looking a little sad. And I never used to really take care of it. So that I spent more time this year trying to take care of it. Anyways, soil temps. But this still says North Carolina. What? I thought I changed this. Oh no. I thought I said, yeah, this is Federal Way. Well, this is where I live. Soil temps. And I just kind of put this up here just to kind of show you. I mean, we're still in an optimal grass growing time. 55 degrees is, I'm sorry, that's the average there. We're at 58 degrees. I just did another neighbor's lawn reno September, what was it, about 3 weeks ago. And it was a little late, but it still was a good time to be able to do that. And it's going pretty good. But our temperatures are kind of starting to really drop. The sun is not out as long anymore. Summer ended, over a month ago for us. And man, we've noticed the changes. In fact, I should have a sweater on right now. It's actually kind of chilly out here, but I'm in my garage, so no big deal. But if I was outside, I'd definitely be wearing a jacket. It's probably 50 degrees out there. We've been having lows in the 40s, 45, and it being barely 50 by 10 o'clock. So weather is changing for sure. Fall is coming. So, all right, that's what I got. My biggest takeaway from why I do lives, why I even do this information. I just like doing it. I take videos and photos of so much different stuff. I've been getting into star lapses and outdoor photography a little bit more now. I just like doing those sorts of things. Lawn care is kind of getting on the backside of the season, so I guess got to find something else new to do instead of laying around on the couch. So I like doing the live stream. I like setting it up. I don't know. It's just stupid. I did one, and then now I just like doing them. I actually do live coffee roasting on my other channel that I have, and it's the same thing. I don't do it for any other reason than I'm going to roast coffee. Some people might be interested in it. I love roasting my own coffee. I love the flavor, and I just do a live video of roasting coffee, just trying to encourage people into trying to do something new, a hobby that they can do for very easily and very cheaply. Just something I do. Last, I do these lives because I was tired of being conned. I was tired of being told stuff that's not true, and I was tired of being told to use all these different products on my lawn and not even need it. It's a waste of my money. Are the products going to hurt your lawn? Probably not. But high potassium, just inviting disease into your lawn. A high potassium level, adding potassium, increases the chances for disease. Lawn care channels are all the time talking about disease and how they have disease in their lawn. And they don't even realize that they're probably adding so much potassium that that's what's causing their problem in the first place. Instead of treating it, I think I had a disease in the summer. I'm not even sure that it was a disease. I think I just had a watering issue. I mean, after seeing my soil sample, I'm pretty sure I didn't have a disease problem, but whatever. If I did, you know, it's not there now. I had never had disease in my front yard. Anyways, you know, potassium is just one of those kind of things. If you're adding a lot of it, and a lot of people tell you to add potassium because it's going to prevent heat stress and it's going to prevent this, prevent that. They tell you to add potassium in the wintertime, and you know what? There's so much garbage. There is no reason to add potassium to your lawn to prevent anything, because it's not. Potassium just helps the turf, the soil, the microbes produce an enzyme that your plant needs to fight off heat stress. That's all it is. If it's available in your lawn already, your microbes are already able to produce these enzymes that your plant needs. So potassium, and like I said, I'm just was so frustrated and so angry that I let these guys, you know, con me into buying these products and doing these things. And I don't do them anymore. I just don't. I'm on my own. I listen to soil scientists. I listen to the science. I watch conferences. I listen to people. I, you know, listen to research papers and the information they have in on them. And I can't produce a lot of these research papers because you have to be a member of this soil, I don't know, there's a magazine or there's a publication that puts a lot of these articles out, or these research papers. And you have to be like a member for, I don't know, $100 a year or something. And it's not that important to me. But I found places where I can go to hear the information and the knowledge on it. And that's all I'm looking for, is what is the real science behind growing grass. And the reality is nitrogen. All this other garbage, waste your money. Okay? It's that simple. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you may have learned something. I'll be back again sometime with another broadcast. I hope you have a great day.